The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining our July Brokers Business Accelerator with our Oregon broker, Heather TenBroek. Now before we begin, I want to say how happy we are to now offer a ton of great free marketing tools to all of our agents. These are now available in AJI University. Our goal is to always give back to our agents by offering the newest tools and technologies to you. None of this would be possible without you and your amazing amount of agent referrals to AJI as Allison James continues to grow. With agents referring other agents to our brokerage, we will be able to provide more of these tools to you. Remember, you can earn a monthly or yearly residual income simply by having an agent join us. All you need to do is contact Jeff Jabora or myself in the National Growth and Development Department and provide them with the contact information of the agent you would like to refer over. Now, agents, before we begin, I want to show you a new tool in Allison James University. Allison James University, first of all, is a one-stop shop for everything you'll ever need. You'll log in, and if you need your login information and don't know it, your username is going to be your email address that you used when you applied with us, and your password's going to be your phone number without dashes. Okay? Now, you have your marketing in here, which has your logos. You have your corporate directory, broker directory. The one new thing I wanted to show everybody was agents referring AJI agents. So if you're looking to earn a monthly residual income and you want to start recruiting agents, we're here to help you. You just, on the dashboard, just click this tab. And in this store, we have trifold folders, we have e-cards, we have regular flyers and brochures. And it basically has information if you know of an agent that wants to join or maybe could benefit from joining, or you just did a deal with an agent and you think, hey, maybe they could want to join, you can go into the store, pick out one of the recruiting materials, and simply email it over to them. It will show plans, it will show tools that we offer, it'll give them all the basic info that they need that would spark an interest for them. So I definitely wanted to show you that and definitely use that. Now I'm going to introduce Heather TenBroek, who's going to be presenting today for the roundtable.
Hi everybody, happy summer. I'm so excited to be joining you today, and also wanted to apologize for last month. So we have a lot of things to go over today. Really excited to see all these new marketing materials, and it's so fun to go back on the university and see something new. So I hope you all are utilizing those tools and assistance whenever you need it. I know sometimes, you know, when you're out there in the virtual world, it's hard to connect with others. So, you know, make sure you use that, and, you know, you can always reach out to corporate if you need help. And as a reminder about these wonderful, you see on the screen the summertime Facebook banner, those are really fun to use, and updating your Facebook business page, you know, as we go throughout the year, they're super fun. And then, you know, the people that are following your business page on Facebook, you know, will always get a little notice when you've changed something on your page, so it's kind of nice to update those. I'm pretty sure I need to do that too. So, okay, our next slide, please, Alicia. Are you there? Oh, there we go. So today we're gonna, this is kind of our theme today. I know that most of you have heard me say this a bunch of times, be the source of the source and not the source. It's really crucial to remember when you're representing clients, and when you get super busy, and when the market's crazy, and, you know, even when it's not crazy, to always remember that you are the source of the information on most things, but not the actual professional in, say, fields like you know, the legal realm. You're not an attorney, you're not an accountant, you're not the inspector, you're not a contractor, you're not the appraiser, you're not the lender. So it's always good to remember to be professional in your field and your special, you know, niche in the field, which is being a realtor. And, you know, having a list and having a really good networking vendor list can also help you in your own business, and you know, referring clients to those people in your networking vendor list is really important as you grow and as you continue in your career as a realtor. And you can always update those. I think Gina and I have probably changed that networking vendor list 10 times, you know, over the last decade. And you know, it's important to stay on top of those people, and, you know, maybe even meeting for coffee or tea or lunch or something, and meet with them and see how you can help each other grow your business. Being the liaison between those people is crucial when you're helping your folks, you know, sellers and buyers, and also to other realtors. You know, if you have a question about, and I've seen this quite a bit in our own group in Oregon, and I encourage you to continue to do that. If you have a question about something, just pose it to everybody. If you need an updated email contact list, you can just shoot me an email and I'll send it to you, or just check the last email that I sent out to everybody, and you can use that email roster. And if you have a question about, hey, who, you know, do you know somebody, you know, in Tualatin who specializes in mold, you know, remediation, or, you know, things like that. Reach out to each other and use each other. We also have the Facebook group, the Closed Oregon Broker group. If you're not on that, shoot me an email today and I'll make sure to get you on that group. And you can communicate with each other that way as well. I'd like to encourage you all to be that liaison and that guide and that support, you know, with each other and also with your clients. I know sometimes, you know, we get caught up in how busy we are and we forget that our clients kind of need a hand-holding here and there, or maybe not here and there, maybe more than here and there. But one of the key things that I like to also say, besides being the source of the source and not the source, is something we, and I'm pretty sure it was the Terry Watson speaker who came to Bend a couple times. Don't be a by-the-way broker. So we're going to kind of talk about that today as well. You don't want to be that broker that, you know, oh, by the way, I should have told you this, but this is what's going to actually happen. And you want to kind of have those conversations before they happen so that you can kind of be the hero and the savior of things, instead of the, you know, oh, yeah, I'm sorry I didn't tell you that, but this is going to happen. Okay, so next slide, please. I want to do a special shout out. Sorry about the fuzzy picture, Sarah. I want to welcome Sarah Medina in the Portland area. She is super excited to be part of our family, as we are for her to join us. And I put her phone number on there. You know, if you ever want to just shout out and say hi and welcome her to our Portland area, please do so. And thanks for joining us, Sarah, and welcome to our first roundtable. So one of the things that I find super helpful, and this is also from Terry Watson, is having a frequently asked questions sheet with your packets, either your list kits or your buyer's kits. You know, a lot of times, you know, if you don't have the discussion with them in the beginning and then you have it along the way, you know, we probably will have those discussions along the way with clients, but it's always good to give them something in the beginning, because a lot of times they don't even know the questions to ask. Because maybe they've not been in this process before, maybe they have, but they weren't told by somebody else, and we want to be that person who guides them along the way. So there's a lot of information, obviously, in real estate. We know this, right? There's a lot of little nuances and little ins and outs and all these little things that we know and that we have learned over the course of our careers, but our clients, you know, may not. And so having something tangible, something that they can hold in their hands, kind of helps them through the process. I think it's super important when, you know, let's say they have a question about their lender and they don't even know to ask the lender about something like lender required repairs or what their payment's going to be, or, you know, how much money they have to bring to the table, or what happens if the inspector calls out something that's a deal breaker, what happens if the seller doesn't respond, what happens if, you know, all these things that come up. It's a lot of information, it's a lot to store, so having something tangible, having a list of frequently asked questions is super helpful. And you can have those in your buyer's packets and your list kit packet. So you know, a lot of times the buyers and sellers, you know, maybe they've bought or sold before, but every situation is different. I'm sure you guys all know that every transaction is different, every seller is different, every buyer is different, every property is different, every lender situation is different. So, you know, the collection of things that can occur, you know, can throw things off, you know, if you're not prepared and if your clients aren't prepared. And next month in August, we're going to focus a lot on being prepared. That is the kind of the main focus of the big national AJ webinar presentation that I'll be doing. So I encourage you to join us. And Alicia, remind me the date of that again. 17th?
I'm sorry, for what?
The August webinar is on the 17th?
Yes, third Wednesday of every month.
Oh, perfect. Yes. So please join us for that. We're going to go into depth, and the focus will be being prepared with condition of the property, repairs and how to negotiate them, and then dealing with the financing around that. So please join us for that. Okay, next slide, please. So I've put together kind of a fun little list, and, you know, please excuse the typos, or, you know, maybe some repeats. This is just an example, the next few pages, of some frequently asked questions that you can put on your own list. I can send these to you if you want to just shoot me an email and say, yes, please send me what you have. I have them in a Word format, and you can move them around, put them on your fancy letterhead, put them on, you know, whatever flyers that you like. But they're fun, and they make a conversation, the initial conversation with your clients, kind of fun and exciting when you can talk about some of these things, because if they know that it could happen and then it doesn't, like certain issues, it's not like you always want to prepare your clients for the worst, but you want them to know that certain things, you know, actually could happen, and when they don't, and when you're on top of it and they're ready for it to happen, then you've already had that conversation and they're not freaked out. Hence the don't be a by-the-way broker. So Terry Watson put a list together, and then over the last couple years, Gina and I have added things to them. And again, it makes it kind of a fun interaction with your clients. The reason why we have that one at the top, that one question, do you work nights and weekends, is inevitably you know, every relationship that you develop, every new relationship with a new client, it's important to establish yourself and what hours you actually do work, because I think that what's gotten away from our industry is that actual structure, and clients forget that we actually are people too, and we have families and lives, and that we can't work 24/7. And you, even if you want person for people, if you allow it, then it's an ongoing epidemic. And it contributes to and I don't mean epidemic like a sickness, but sometimes it shocks me that people would call me at 9 o'clock at night and want to see a property at 10 o'clock the next morning, or you know, want to discuss things. And so it's really important for you to establish that, and I think that's important to keep at the very first question, because you want to establish that with your clients from the beginning, so that there's no you know, you have that expectation, and your clients understand you know, when you work. So there's a lot of fun questions on there, and some of them might seem, you know, to you like not that important, but if you think about it, the clients don't know all this stuff. You know, they don't understand when even what closing means sometimes, because we know what the word closing means, but to a client it can mean all kinds of things. A lot of people think that they get handed their keys, you know, at the signing at escrow, and that is closing. So it's good to, you know, have this discussion with people. And let's see, what's another one down here that's kind of fun. Yeah, what does broom swept mean? You know, it's customary to for your sellers to remove their debris, you know, which also includes, you know, cleaning a septic. But you know, we don't we don't always want to. Well, we never really want to assume, but we don't want to assume ever that the client understands what clean means. We want to have that discussion with people. That, you know, you have to ask whether the buyers want, you know, your 20 cans of paint that's in the garage, you know, maybe they're going to repaint and they don't want it. Maybe they want it gone, you know, things like that. Scheduling moving trucks, you know, how much earnest money is customary, things like that. The next slide is some more of those frequently asked questions. One of the ones the conversations I love is the conversation about Zillow, and I kind of wish that I could hear you all on this one, because I'm sure that you all have had this situation where you know, your client is seeing things on Zillow and they're not in the listings, you know, the properties that are available that you are sending them. And I know in Central Oregon, you know, we have our portals, and we, you know, these properties end up being in a category that you choose, like active, pending, sold, so they can see what's happening in the market. And then inevitably they'll be calling you, I want to go see this property, I found it on Zillow, and it's, you know, it's sold last year, or you know, it wasn't even available at all. I don't know how that ever happens, but it does. So it's important to have the conversation with your clients about them finding properties elsewhere. So not to have that conversation later. I think it's really important to have that conversation with buyers and sellers so that they understand our syndication and how ListHub works and how things are pushed out from the MLS. And you know, if you don't understand how that all works, you know, we're not all as techie as the next, you know, person or the millennial generation. But I think, you know, the benefit of, you know, having an MLS like our MLS and Central Oregon MLS is that they are there to help us as well, and to reach out, you know, to understand that syndication. We have a flyer that we have put together in our list packet that kind of includes some of those main sites that our listings go under, and then a little paragraph that explains how Zillow works. And I think, you know, with the growing number, those of us with AJ that do REO properties, especially through NationStar, we have properties that end up on Zillow with a starting price of the starting bid and not the actual list price. So we get a lot of calls, you know, oh, I found this on Zillow, why isn't it on the MLS, things like that. So anyway, these are just kind of some fun frequently asked questions we added, and you can amend them and edit them as you see fit. I think the next slide might be, I think the next one is not frequently asked questions. I forget what the next one is. Oh yeah. So when you're having these discussions with your clients, and I don't remember which speaker, we've seen some good ones over the last few years, but the most important thing, the most important conversation, I think, and it has really proven true over the years, that the most important question you can ask your clients is, what is the one thing, what's the most important thing to your client that happens in this transaction? What is the most important aspect of this that I should know? I think a lot of times, you know, we just get rolling with the punches, and we go through down our list, and we, and we get all this done and we do our paperwork and we follow along, but maybe we've skipped over the one thing that's important to them, and sometimes it's something that they don't even know to think about until you really ask them. For example, the most important thing to a client could be that they are close to a school because of something, or they want to make sure that their grandparents are included in something, or that they be moved by a particular date. A lot of times they don't even know what's crucial to them. Maybe it's that they have a big bay window because when they were growing up, they spent a lot of time at their lake house with this big bay window. I mean, you just don't know until you ask. And if you can do that one thing for those folks, then a lot of those other little things kind of fall to the wayside. And then you're the hero. If you've done that one thing and then you've done a whole bunch of other little things that are important to them, if you've accomplished that one thing for them, then they are happy and they go away, praising you. But if you've missed that one thing and you start showing the properties that that don't have a bay window, maybe you start there, or whatever their, special request is. And again, you'll often be very surprised at the answers. Some of them are, easy to accomplish, and you can say, to yourself, no problem. And then maybe you don't even talk about it anymore. And then at the end, when you're at closing, you say, and they say, I really appreciate you remembering, how important it was that we, be close to a school, and thank you for, finding that. Or thank you so much for, finding me a buyer that allowed me to stay in my house for one extra week before I shipped off to sea, or, whatever. I think the other really crucial thing in any transaction with buyers or sellers is an A to Z list, and I spout this a lot too. Because there are so many steps along the way. It helps you stay on top of your own job. It helps you stay on top of the lender's job, escrow's job, the appraiser, the inspector, and your clients, so that they know this is what happens first, this is what happens next. And sometimes, like what I like to do is I highlight maybe a middle section that says these things might happen not in order, but these will happen at this, at this juncture. Like, the inspection happens, next, and then we do our negotiations, but then sometimes the appraisal happens, in and around that time as well. Things like that. I have one that I've used that I add to and subtract, and I have one for REO properties, for short sales, and for traditional sales. So if you want some help with that, I'm happy to provide that. Escrow companies also have a nice one. First American provides really nice books, buying a home, selling a home, and then one for our local area, and I do believe they do one for Portland too, which kind of highlights parks, coffee shops, restaurants, things like that. So reach out, utilize your escrow companies, as much as you can to, provide the marketing tools that they already have available to you. One thing that I would like to add, since we've had the subject come up about escrow companies, try not to use your escrow companies to do your job. Allow them to provide you services that is their job. Like, don't call them up and say, I would like every single piece of paper printed for 400 pages of a list kit, or everything that's on the county site that has ever been produced, on a piece of paper. That is your job to look up, a property and research, certain things. Yes, it is their job to provide you with a list kit or a trio, but try to remember some of the, and meet with your favorite escrow officer and see how you can, assist each other in developing and curating and, building your business. Any questions so far? Comments?
I don't have any questions right now. If you guys do have questions, please remember you can type in the bottom of the box. We'll stop and Heather can answer them for you. So just type in the box and I'll let her know.
Okay. We also have part of that list, we do a things you shouldn't do. And so we have kind of a checklist for them. A lot of times they get themselves into trouble because they just don't know that they shouldn't have done that. And trust me, I do think that lenders could be a little bit more forthcoming on those things. And I know some do give out lists of, you know, don't do this, please do this. You know, don't go buy a car before, you know, we've closed escrow. Don't go take out a new Sears card, you know, things like that, because they can inhibit and hinder the process. Sellers, you know, often get themselves into trouble, you know, planning their move right when we've accepted an offer. And there are a lot of things that can occur so that we wouldn't close on time, and then they're pissed because, you know, we didn't tell them that there are lots of things that have to happen before it's, you know, guaranteed. And really, nothing's guaranteed until it closes. And there are lots of contingencies that the buyer is allowed to back out. You know, the only thing that happens to the buyer is they lose their earnest money, but a seller backing out for, you know, kind of no reason, you know, they can be sued for performance. You know, two things happen in real estate. Buyer brings the money and seller brings equitable, clear title. If a seller can't provide clear title, if there's a cloud on the title and they didn't understand that it was there or didn't know, because it can happen, then it is not their, you know, essence. In essence, it's not their fault, and, you know, things can fall apart. So it's important to go over those things. Again, you know, don't be a by-the-way broker. Hey, by the way, I forgot to tell you, you know, the buyers can back out till the last day if they don't qualify for their loan. It's not their fault, and they get their earnest money back. So planning a move and you know, they have to be prepared to, you know, to have an extra month on the market if need be, and if they want to plan to move, go ahead and plan to move. I think you all know what I'm trying to say there. And then you will probably have to talk about things more than once, and giving them this tangible, you know, something to hold in their hands, you know, to refer back to, you know, about questions and assistance can really help save a deal. Like, oh yeah, okay, I'm prepared, this could happen. Next slide, please. Yeah, so some of these things obviously will, you know, come from a lender to a buyer. Some of these will have to do with sellers as well. They're kind of mixed right now. But these are some of the things I think that are really important. And like going back to that question with a buyer, what is the most important thing to you? Sometimes they don't realize that the most important thing to them is to move into a house where there had never been any animals. Sometimes you don't know that they're allergic because it doesn't come up until, you know, maybe later. Maybe the person has taken their animals and you didn't even mention it, but then they get there and now they're having an allergic reaction and they need their EpiPen. So this is a good list to have for your clients as well. You know, the lender and the buyer have a conversation that you might not have with them. They might not be as forthcoming with you about money, and that is a confidential conversation that they might have with that lender. But I think it's important to have these conversations with your clients about, hey, let's not go look at houses that are fixer-uppers if you don't have, you know, a bunch of money to do repairs. I think that's a super crucial conversation to have with your clients, and a lot of times we just forget that because they say, oh, I just want to, you know, this is what I can afford right now. But then what happens if the lender is requiring repairs? They find their dream house, the seller's not going to do any repairs, and the buyer's like, well, what happens? And they don't get their dream house because nobody's willing to do any repairs, and that could be a, you know, a deal breaker. Maybe having that conversation, like things you shouldn't do, don't talk to sellers directly. There was a speaker that we went to a couple years ago that was talking about you know, baby cams and baby cams being left on, and you having a conversation in the house about something, and then it can completely upend a deal. Maybe you're in contract and you're talking about, what you're going to do to the property, and it could stir some emotional response in the seller, and or maybe you're talking about all their, pardon my language, all their crap, everywhere, and it can leave a bad taste. So it's real crucial to be professional, and also have your clients being tight-lipped when it comes to talking in the house. So these are kind of just a fun little list of things that we have on our things you shouldn't do list. And I think the next one is continued. Again, like, don't trash the property in front of the owners. Oh, this is a good one. Waiting to see everything else that is on the market. How many times have you had that client that, finds their dream house and they're like, well, we just want to keep looking, and then of course the one that they looked at first is gone, and that happens a lot.
Or thinking that you can't choose the first property.
Right. Yeah, or thinking that you have to go look at a bunch of other properties and not choose that first one.
Even though it's the perfect house.
Even though it's the perfect house. So I think that's a really important conversation to have before you even go shopping. Say, listen, I want you to really think about this. We might find your dream house, the very first one we go to. It happened to us just recently with a client, and we were very forthcoming about that before we even went shopping. And sure enough, the very first house, and thank goodness, because they wouldn't have been able to get it, and they saw things coming in their portal that weren't even close, and they at first wanted to wait, and it's a good thing that they didn't. And then now they're in their perfect house. Terry Watson also talks about the 80-10-10 rule, and back in the day, it was also kind of considered the Ben Franklin close, and some of you might remember that. Talking with your clients about, let's say you find a house and there are, 80% of this house is like, oh my God, I'm going to live here forever, this is perfect. And maybe 10% is something maybe that they're not so crazy about, like, oh, I really don't like that there's a door going from the laundry room like straight into the bathroom, or just a door, right? Maybe it's 10% of something you can live with that maybe you might want to change later. 10% of something you could change, and 10% you can live with. Oh, I guess I could live with the fact that there's a door there. 10% of things you can change is like paint. The rose bush is like blocking my view to my pergola, or whatever. Those are really important conversations to have with your client, because if somebody somebody might be immediately turned off to the fact that the paint color in the kitchen is canary yellow, and if you haven't had the conversation with them about a can of paint, you can say, hey, if we find the perfect house, maybe that's a closing gift, as a can of paint, something like that. But I think it's really important to have these conversations with your clients beforehand, because sometimes even somebody's unfortunate, a seller's unfortunate leaving behind of some dirty laundry, and then the person can't even look at the rest of the house because they're thinking about dirty laundry, or they see, it's happened, you run across something left behind, in the middle of a bedroom floor, and that's all that they can focus on. So it's really good to have that conversation, before you go shopping. And then, of course, with sellers, it's really good to have that conversation with them about this rule as well. Like, 80% of this buyer's offer, you're happy with. Maybe 10% of it, maybe one little thing is, oh, I have to, provide a home warranty, or maybe I need to allow a little extra time at closing. But if this is like the offer that you want and it's not really the closing time, what can you live with, and what things can we change, what things are negotiable, and what things will stay the same. I think another important one on this list, on this page, is, well, they're all kind of important, but have a conversation with your buyers about calling the other broker on for sale signs and at going to open houses and new construction without you. um, I think so much of this happens and we don't take responsibility for it. We say, oh, well, it's the buyer's fault and they didn't listen and they didn't, like, well, be firm about it and give them an out, give them a reason and explain why this is important to you, because it's the integrity of our business and it's the fiduciary responsibility that we have to our clients to be their specialist. And if they're just wandering around and then they call somebody on that for sale sign, they might get sucked in by the broker saying, I'll give you a better deal if you buy the house with me. And you want to prepare them for that conversation. And we can delve into that on a more personal level if that happens to you and you need some scripts. But there are scripts as to how to handle that. I actually Googled a few things recently, and I was amazed at how much assistance there was just online, blog posts, and different things that you can say to your clients that will help them kind of stay in line, so to speak. And somebody finding a house like on Zillow and maybe calling the broker that pops up might not even be the listing broker, because we all know those brokers on the right-hand side pay for that. So they pay for that special advertising, and it might say, interested in this property? Call me. And it's not the listing broker. So again, important to have these conversations with your clients. Okay, next slide, please. Let's see, some fun ones on here. Oh yeah, scheduling vacation. Don't change your name during the mortgage process. If you are working with a client who is getting married, it's important to have that conversation with you and the lender and the seller and the buyer, having that conversation with, and with escrow as to what needs to take place with that. The problem with the mortgage process and changing your name is that once it's started, especially with the new TRID, once things are started in the way that they're started, you really can't make changes to certain things, and those are conversations that you should have with the loan officer. And having unreasonable expectations is just a nice thing to add on here, to have that conversation with people. Like, I want a pool, and I want mountain views, and I want a single-story 2,300 square foot house on an acre for $220,000. It's like, okay, we need to have this conversation, and not not before you start sending them. It's like, okay, sit down with your clients before you just start sending them information, because they're a lot of times they think that we're just not sending them properties. They think that they exist. It's important to have a conversation with your clients about what exists in the market today, because a lot of times they're like, well, I'm finding plenty of properties that are like this on Zillow. Well, that might have sold 2 years ago. So again, have that conversation with your clients. Oh, this is a big one. Make sure to talk to your folks about social media. Because it is such a huge part of the tech world now and just our everyday life, it's really crucial to talk to your folks about social media sites and maybe trashing this or even praising this, or just have a conversation with them about that, and keeping it professional. You never know, you could post something about a realtor, not even say that realtor's name, maybe say the property, but that realtor is on social media and knows that you saw their listing that day and puts the two pieces together. We've had lots of issues with that over the years. We had a poor escrow officer who was selling her own house, and a broker saw, showed the house and then posted something, not so nice about the situation, and of course it got back, and it was just very uncomfortable. So, and obviously a big one, getting a home inspection. If they're a contractor and they're going to do their own work, and they got their own eyes, and they're buying cash property, and they're going to, do a complete, down to the studs remodel, okay. However, still get them to sign something like, you know, on a piece of paper even, DocuSign something to them, or did you sign something to them that says, I, Heather TenBroek, was very, something, I wanted to make sure that they knew that they should get a home inspection and they, gracefully declined, something like that, so that if anything comes down the road and you end up in arbitration and they didn't get a home inspection and there was something major on that house and then they're suing the seller for not disclosing material fact, that you did your job. You did your, CYA. I was very clear about, really, really, really encouraging them and almost demanding that they get a home inspection. So it's real important to have that conversation. Okay, next slide, please. And these are just some more. You guys can take a minute and just kind of scroll down and see, some of these wonderful little reminders. Let's see if there's anyone we should talk about. Oh yeah, people saying they have an attorney, and then you find out that they're either a criminal lawyer or a personal injury lawyer, and they have no idea about real estate, but they've given them some kind of advice. Make sure that that's in your packet. 3 attorneys, 3 inspectors, 3 lenders, 3 house cleaners, things like that. Make sure that you have that in your list of vendors. Let's see. Window shopping, yeah. This is a good one for sellers. If it cannot be written in a contract because it's being done under the table, it's probably fraud. It can be, mortgage fraud, like, they're doing something on the side, or let's say they're going to do a closing cost in cash between the buyer and the seller, and you find out about it. It needs to that does not need to happen. Oh yeah, so here's that topic I mentioned a little bit earlier. Do not consider a fixer if you have no money to spend on repairs. Financial conversations with clients can be a little touchy sometimes. It doesn't have to be. They can be fun and helpful, and they don't have to be pointing a finger like, oh well, you don't have any money, so we shouldn't be looking at this. There are other ways of creatively and kindly speaking to them about what's in their price range. And you don't want to be that person that sold somebody a house that comes back to you and says, you should have never sold me this house, I can't afford it. Even though it's not your responsibility, it underlyingly is our duty and our fiduciary responsibility to guide our clients and make sure that they are happy and safe and within their means. And yes, this would obviously be something that we would hope the lenders would always discuss with them. Like, okay, yes, you're qualified for this much, but can you really afford this on a day-to-day basis or a monthly basis? Because somebody might be qualified up to $500,000, but should they have a $4,000 or $5,000 mortgage payment? Probably not. So, yes, and I want to go back up to this using a 100% online lender. That I guess that's a personal preference. This is one of the ones that was on his list. I think because anyone who has had this situation, and I know Gina's experienced this recently, hard to reach, hard to get information from. You don't really have like a person that you've developed a relationship with or are able to develop a relationship with. They're not in your local area. And many times you don't even know that they're not even licensed in the state of Oregon, and that maybe they're in the process of being able to do loans in Oregon. So I think it's important to remember and have your clients understand to get a second opinion. And one of the things I like to say in my normal jargon is get a second opinion. This is more money than you'll ever spend on anything in your whole entire life is on your house. You get a second opinion from a doctor if it's, you know, something important, then you might get a second opinion on your financing. And in a lot of cases, that's not going to ding them more than once because it's in the same field. So it's always a good thing to ask the lenders, is this going to ding me? Is this going to hurt my chances? If I've already gotten a quote from, what is that new Rocket Mortgage thing? Yeah. So is this going to hurt my credit if I do this again? And how important it might be to them to have a face-to-face and actually sit down and talk to somebody that they can trust about their finances. Okay, next slide, please. Oh yeah, so some more for sellers. One of the big ones is, you know, sellers think that they're going to get every penny back on improvements and upgrades. Well, I paid $350 for it last year, and I put $100,000, and so I want $500,000. It's like, well, that might not be, just because you decide that that's what you put into it. It's not what the market is, and so I talk about Jackie Leavenworth a lot, and if you haven't seen her or heard her or seen her website or gone to her blog or done any of her education, I really encourage you to look her up. She has some great scripts and different kind of language. You know, we all get caught up in kind of the language that we use, and using words that the client will understand, I think really is a refreshing and kind of new way to look at it. You know, we say CMA, we say HOA, we say REO, we have all these acronyms, and it's even in when we get our license, it's actually part of our ethics and our duty to not use jargon and to not use special real estate terms that people won't understand. It's actually important for us to use words that people will understand. And in that process, it's talking with them about how the market works. And the sellers do not set the market. I'll say that again. Sellers do not set the market. Buyers do. It depends on how many buyers there are. It depends on the demand. It depends on what somebody is willing to pay for that house. And the only way to know that is to look at what has sold even in the last 30 days. That is going to tell you what people are buying and what people are willing to spend. Another big one, assuming you can stay in the house after closing. People a lot of times think that, okay, so they close, now I move in 30 days. No. No, you move when, before it's closed. And please encourage your clients not to move actually the day of closing, because that always gets sticky. The people show up and they want to have their keys, and the sellers are, packing their china, and they haven't even, left the house. And not having the conversation with your clients about repairs. It's important to have kind of the same conversations you'll have with buyers as those that you'll have with sellers. So I encourage you to discuss that. You never want to be in that situation where, the buyer brings a buyer's repair denim and the seller says, oh, I'm not doing any of that, and you've not even had that conversation. Because if they're not willing to do anything, that probably means you probably should have said, as is in the listing, and seller to do no repairs. And a lot of times sellers don't want to tell you that because they want to see what they get without deterring anybody, from writing on the house. But that is something that we need to know before we list it. Next slide, please. And this is a list as part of that little packet, also things that will most likely happen. And this is what I was kind of referring to before, when you can kind of be the hero. If you explain things to them in the very beginning and give them this list, and they have it on, in writing in their hands, and then you're not saying, to them later, oh yeah, I probably should have told you that It is common that brokers might miss their appointments. You don't want them being pissed at them, pissed at the buyer, pissed at you. So just have that conversation that some of these things, will happen, and we can put it in a nice way so that we're not throwing the other brokers under the bus, because obviously that is part of our fiduciary responsibility to each other. But just to let them know that sometimes things happen. Sometimes you're out with your client and you've seen 5 properties, and that 6th one, and you miss it, and you're still at a property and you miss the time, and sometimes you are late, and things happen. But if you are that broker showing properties and you're not going to make it, and you please call and please let them know that maybe you won't be coming or you'll be late, and reschedule it if need be. I think it's important for all of us, just in wrapping some of these lists up, is discuss things with your clients in the beginning, and then it won't be, excuse my language, a shit show at the end. Okay, next slide, please. And I think, we want to remember that real estate can be fun. I think a lot of times we get caught up in the minutia of things and the details, and we forget to kind of have a good time. And we all, chose this profession for a reason. And every day, we wake up and it's a different day, it's a different situation. And like I said, it's a, different property, different client, different lender, different, every day is different, right? You could do a million things in one day, and you go home and inevitably your partner says, "So, did you close a house today? Did you list a property today? Did you?" It's like, well, no, but I was really busy all day. I was really busy. But I think it's when we stop to think about these kind of conversations to have with your clients, you can make it fun, and you can provide them with information in an informative way, so that they don't feel like they've been left out, or it kind of helps them to be smarter. Like giving them the list in the beginning, it helps them to not, because a lot of times they don't want to ask a question because they feel like, oh God, did Heather tell me that in the listing appointment? I hate to ask her a question again. Have that conversation with them too. It's okay to ask a question, even if you've asked me before, and even if it's on the list, let's talk about it. And one of the things I wanted to just throw out there too is it recently happened to a couple of people that I know, and it's just a nice little reminder. When people are packing and the last of it is like going into the boxes, maybe a nice idea to bring lunch to your clients, or bring a little, treat to them while they're packing and saying goodbye to their house, because it is an emotional process. And, for your buyers and your sellers, we are here to remove that emotion and not have emotion when we're dealing with each other and our brokers and our clients, but we have to remember that our clients are emotional about the process. It is a big deal. And so bringing something to them while they're packing and saying goodbye to those, those memories, and wishing that they had asked if they could take that piece of trim board that has all the growth chart, of their kids and things like that. Like, just remember, make it fun, have fun yourself, and spend some time. Make sure you're getting some fun in this summer, and celebrate, the closing, celebrate yourself, celebrate your clients, and celebrate all of it. And I'm so proud of all of you guys, and I don't mean that to sound, condescending, but I'm just so happy about our wonderful team and our wonderful Oregon family, and kudos to all of you. Great job. And if there are any questions or any comments, we'll about wrap it up.
Heather, I don't see any questions in there, but we'll still leave it open for anybody who has any.
Thanks, you guys, for joining us today. I hope that was fun for you, and I enjoyed bringing all this information to you. So if there's anything that we discussed today that you want more of, just let me know, and I look forward to talking with you all next month on the next webinar. Have a great rest of your summer, and talk to you guys all soon. Have a great day.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.